Good afternoon, everyone. So great to see you all here in what I was hoping would be more of a spring-like day, but we're not quite there yet. So it's great to see you all. I'm Sharon Corwin. I'm the Carolyn Muzzy Director and Chief Curator here at the Colby College Museum of Art, and it's my great pleasure to welcome our faculty, students, staff, and community members here for the Miles and Katharine Culbertson Prentice Distinguished Lecture by Yoshua Okón. I extend my warmest welcome to you all, and it's a great pleasure to have such a distinguished artist with us as our lecturer this afternoon. The Prentice Lecture was established in 2006 by Miles and Katharine Culbertson Prentice to bring leading artists from around the world to present and discuss their work. Since then, we've been honored to welcome, among others, Trevor Paglen, Tim Rollins, Leonardo Drew, Alejandro Cesarco, and Maya Lin. I'm so grateful to the Prentice family for making this lecture series possible for us and for allowing us to bring Okón to Colby. I would also like to acknowledge our partners and co-sponsors for this evening's event and thank our colleagues in the Art Department and the Center for the Arts and Humanities. This lecture is presented in conjunction with Okón's exhibition Oracle, which is on view in the Colby Museum, and I invite you all to view it in the Davis Gallery and join us immediately following this afternoon's lecture for a reception in the William D. Adams Gallery. It is now my pleasure to welcome the curator for the exhibition, Diana Tweet, the museum's Katz Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, who will introduce our distinguished artists. Thank you, Diana, for realizing this great piece here at Colby and for working to bring this wonderful artist here to speak with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, and good evening. I'm Diana Tweet, the Katz Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, and I'm delighted to be joined today by so many of our campus and community partners. We couldn't do what we do without you, so thank you for coming. Let me also remind you that tomorrow there's another related event in the museum at 3 o'clock. We will be hosting Dream Action, Voicing Challenges in Our Own Communities. This will be a public conversation about immigration, organized in collaboration with the Mid-Maine Global Forum, Students Organized for Black and Latinx Unity, the Student Government Association, and the Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition. So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce artist Yoshua Okón. I believed that I had first encountered his video installations 7 years ago at the Hammer Museum, though just today we recovered a memory of his work in a group show that I had seen in 2002. And I think my own misremembering and mythologizing of encounter feels particularly resonant in this context. In Los Angeles, Okón was exhibiting Octopus, which you'll hear about tonight, a piece whose title evokes Guatemalan slang for the United Fruit Company, the neo-colonialist American corporation with pervasive influence across Latin America. Very adaptable invertebrates, these octopi. Like so much of Okón's work, this video turns on uneasy reconciliations between international relations, past and present, antagonistic expressions of nationalism, the documentary, and the reenactment. Fiction can sometimes be more real than the real, he has noted, and the camera gives you the freedom to say, I was just acting. Okón was born in Mexico City in 1970, where he lives. Now, in 2002, he received an MFA from UCLA. This is not his first trip to Maine, so it was easy to bring him back. In 2014, he served as a visiting faculty member at the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture. Internationally exhibited and widely collected, he is currently enjoying a retrospective which originated in Mexico City in September and is now on view at the Museo Amparo in Puebla. Okón's work is included in the collections of the Tate Modern, the Hammer Museum, LACMA, and MUAC, among others. I can think of no better artist to close out our year of reflection on origins the annual theme conceived by the Center for the Arts and Humanities. So please join me in welcoming Yoshua Okón.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for such great introduction, Diana. Yes, it's really great to be here. Like Diana mentioned, 4 years ago I spent 10 weeks at Skowhegan, and I have amazing, really great memories of Maine. Anyway, so I will try to focus on the piece that's on display in the museum, Oracle, but I want to give you some context and also talk about some early works. Please feel free to ask questions as I go along, and don't be afraid to interrupt me. So I will begin by showing an early work that was actually part of the exhibition that Diana was referring to at the PS1 in 2002. It was a group exhibition from artists from Mexico City. This early piece is a piece for which I work with policemen in Mexico City. I would come to my studio and then walk out in the streets and look for policemen in order to propose them to come back to my studio and be part of the video. So I would normally think about the kinds of interactions that I wanted to take place as I was looking for the specific policeman. So I will go ahead and show you a few of these videos, and these are some installation views. So generally my work is, I consider it to be a hybrid among performance, installation, and video. So it's generally, I mean, to me, I treat video as a physical medium that occupies space, and so it's always shown in installation context. And this is an example of that. For this piece, I built 6 little rooms. It's a series. I mean, the piece includes 6 videos of these policeman videos. So you can see here a floor plan. But I mean, I built 6 rooms so that you can watch each video on its own. But there's also a strong sense of them being a group. So I will show one of the videos in this series.
Por culpa de ustedes está corrompido todo esto. Cabrón, debería ser un hombre formal como yo,
Pero yo ¿qué
como
hice?
bastantes. Mira, me estás perjudicando.
Yo tengo
en mi
abogados.
trabajo, ¿no? A mí tus abogados y tus papás me los paso por ahí. Tú sabes que ya sácate la goma. En serio, llégale a la
Oiga,
verga.
pero ¿por qué? Yo no estoy haciendo
¿Entiende?
nada.
Llégale a la verga, no sabes lo que es.
Tranquilícese.
Mira,
Usted
me
siempre
vas a-
está aquí para cuidarnos y se debería de tranquilizar, ¿no?
Mira, voy a pedir más unidades. Y si no, yo mismo te voy a romper la madre. Ya, sácate de aquí, pinche marisco. Otto. Ese güero, ya saques a chingar a su madre, cabrón. Me cae de madre que hasta que no les parte uno la madre entienden. Pinches vagos arrogantes. Poca madre. Hijos de la sociedad. La sociedad ya está
Mire,
harta de ustedes,
Al
cabrón.
revés, está harta de ustedes que nos deberían de estar cuidando,
Gente
pero nada más
como
me están
ustedes.
viendo.
Por eso nos está llevando
le
la
pasa?
chingada, farmacodependientes, drogadictos. Ya sácate a chingar a tu madre.
¿Qué, oficial?
Porque lo que va a pasar es que te voy a romper la madre.
Yo puedo
Es
firmar
que no
donde yo
entiendes,
quiera.
tú no puedes firmarme a mí.
¿Por qué
Soy
no?
un
Yo
servidor
puedo firmar
público,
donde
cabrón. Vete a firmar a tu
Pero yo
pinche
no cometí
madre o a
ningún
tus
delito.
hermanas.
Yo no cometí ningún delito,
¿Cómo no?
oficial.
En la forma que me estás hostigando,
Tranquilícese usted.
estás perjudicándome. Es
¿Por
más,
qué?
llégale, porque me vas a hacer...
Tranquilícese, ¿no?
No, pues ¿por qué te voy acá?
Tranquilícese, por favor.
Es más... Mira, bro, ya sácate a chingar a tu madre. Pareces joto, pinche
¿Qué le
marisco.
pasa? Oiga, más respeto,
No,
¿no?
llégale de aquí, me cae.
Más respeto,
Lo que
oficial.
pasa es que te voy a romper la madre y todo va a
¿Pero
pasar.
por qué? Yo no he cometido ningún delito.
Bueno,
Yo
¿qué es lo
puedo
que
filmar
quieres?
si
¿Qué
yo
es lo que
quiero.
quieres? ¿Qué es lo que
Yo
quieres?
puedo filmar si yo quiero.
No, no, tú no vas a
Me da
filmar
la
a
gana.
nadie.
¿Por qué no?
Vete a firmar al zoológico.
Le voy a poner una demanda.
Pues a mí las demandas me las paso por el arco de Belén, cabrón.
Pero
Mejor ya sácate a chingar a tu
usted
madre
está
porque
por
me
arriba
van...
de la ley.
No, estás equivocado.
Tranquilícese.
Estoy en el cumplimiento de mi deber y tú, cabrón.
Pero yo no estoy haciendo nada.
¿Cómo no?
Que yo puedo
¿Qué me
filmar si
tienes
yo
que estar
quiero.
filmando si yo no soy artista? Yo no soy artista.
Pero yo-
Te vuelvo a repetir, vas a hacer que me encabrone y me regrese, te voy a dar en la madre. Y aparte
Pero
te
¿por
voy
qué
a
me
arrestar,
ofende
te
usted?
voy a arrestar.
¿Por qué me ofende?
Gente como tú vale para pura madre, cabrón.
¿Pero por qué me
eso está
ofende,
la
oficial?
sociedad así.
Oiga, yo no lo ofendí.
¿Por qué me quieres faltar al respeto tomándome?
Que yo no lo
Retírate,
estoy faltando al
retírate.
respeto, lo estoy haciendo en verdad.
Mira, ya me estás...
Tranquilícese, oficial.
Cansando,
¿Por qué me
te voy a-
golpea? Le voy a poner una demanda en la
A mí
Contraloría
ponme la que
mañana.
quieras, a mí derechos humanos y tú me los paso.
Mañana le voy a poner una demanda, mañana mismo.
Pues antes de que me pongan la demanda te voy a dar y toda...
Okay, so that's one of the videos in the series. This was shot in 1999, so it's an early piece. Any questions about it? Yes. It's both. I mean, it's a real policeman, and I invited him to my studio, and my only direction was, I asked him if he wanted to engage in a fight with me for my camera. So then he asked me if he could get to insult me, and I said yes, and then he agreed to do it. Yes. So in my work, most of my works really are about, there's a tension between documentary and fiction, and it's sometimes hard to tell where one begins and the other ends. So I kind of anticipated in this case. There are a lot of conflicts and tensions that are out there in the streets in Mexico City, so I kind of sort of could roughly anticipate what would happen, and what kind of, there are many things to argue about, so I just let it kind of happen in real time, and that was the result. So, yes.
So had he agreed to be filmed or not agreed to be filmed?
He did agree, yes. The invitation was to perform for a video in which we had a fight. And there are many class conflicts, race conflicts that are kind of everyday life in Mexico City. So I kind of anticipated a lot of these would come out, but I didn't script it. So, yes. And so it's important for me because also in the moment your mind starts trying to figure out what is real and what not, is the moment you kind of have a more active participation, and then you start coming up with your own interpretations of what you're watching. So that's, yes.
Were you assuming any specific citizen role? Meaning you mentioned the clashes in class, but also
Yes.
gender.
Yes.
Or were you just trying to be a Mexican citizen?
Yes. No, I didn't want to. I don't think there can be any neutrality, and of course, I think we both kind of exaggerated our roles. And my role was the privileged, white kid with the camera, and then he was kind of exaggerating his role as a, the kind of corrupt cop. But in the end of the day, I think. Again, even though this was staged, I think a lot of true conflicts were kind of being exposed there. I'm not sure if that was your question was about that. Yes.
How did you decompress after that? At some point, it seemed to me that there was a change. You were both acting, but there were some truths that were coming out.
Yes.
And then you had to process that. So I'm more interested right now to
Yes, we hugged each other. Yes. Yes. Sorry?
I'm a chaplain.
Okay. Okay, great. So I will go ahead and show another one of this series, and then try to move to more recent works. Okay, so that's another one. Any questions about this one? Yes.
Do the police officers have a chance to view the product?
Okay.
Afterwards, or specifically the participants?
Yes.
So maybe police and
Yes. Well, I actually showed these videos in a museum in Mexico City not long after I shot them. And I did invite them, but they didn't come. So, but yeah, other police saw it and didn't care. You know, they laughed. So it's a little cynic. For this case, in this case, I actually was walking on the street and then saw him playing with his batoon. So then I just approached him and I asked him if he wanted to do a demonstration of his weapon for my camera. That was all my direction. And then, and the rest is history. Yeah, the rest was his. I mean, I was not expecting him to grab his crotch at all. I was behind the camera. I was like, whoa. So it kind of, he surprised us. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that is an example of an early work. So now I will jump to many years in time, to 2011, and to the piece that Diana made reference. And this piece is called Octopus. Let me show you a very recent installation view of it. So this piece was, the origin of this work was an invitation by the Hammer Museum in Los Angeles to do a what they call a research residency. So I had already lived in Los Angeles because I did an MFA there at UCLA. So it's a city that, in a way, it's my second city that I'm very familiarized with. And when I came back to do this residency, this is an installation view at the Hammer Museum. So it's a 4-channel installation of 4 synchronized videos. And in the center, there are these Home Depot buckets that you can use as seats. So when I arrived in Los Angeles, for this residency, I was thinking about, I mean, I wanted to make a work in the city and somehow about an aspect of the city. And I was thinking, and then I had, just before going there, I had read a book completely, I mean, in my mind was unrelated at the time, a book called The Art of Political, no, oh my God, I forgot the name, title is funny. in Spanish is El arte del asesinato político. The art of political murder. No. Yeah, Francisco Goldman. It's the art of political murder, right? Yeah, sorry. I read it in Spanish. Anyway, so yeah, The Art of Political Murder by Francisco Goldman. And this is a book about the assassination of Bishop Geraldi in Guatemala. So it's a book, I mean, Francisco Goldman is a writer that's from New York, well, actually from Boston originally, and but his mother is Guatemalan, and in the 1980s he was a war correspondent in Guatemala, and eventually he wrote this book about the murder of Bishop Geraldi, but the book gives you like a very good idea of the Guatemalan Civil War, and also about the U.S. invasion in Guatemala and the U.S. involvement in the Civil War, etc. And so when I arrived to LA, I had this book fresh in my mind, and all of a sudden I remembered that when I lived there, I had been to the Home Depot, and I had hired some day laborers who were Guatemalan, and who told me that they had fought in the war. I mean, they were ex-guerrilla fighters. So I, the people I was just reading about in this book live in Los Angeles. So I went back, and I'm not sure if it's the same in Maine, but in California, it's in the parking lot of the Home Depots where undocumented workers gather to be hired. So I went back to the same Home Depot parking lot that was near the place I used to live in northeast Los Angeles, in Cypress Park. And sure enough, I found some Guatemalan day laborers who were ex-guerrilla and who had fought in the war. So my idea for the piece that I did for the Hammer was to make a Guatemalan Civil War reenactment at the parking lot of the Home Depot with the actual fighters of the war. I found some ex-military and some ex-guerrillas. And of course, getting the inspiration from the Civil War reenactment that happens here in the US, or appropriating that kind of format. So anyway, and the title of the piece is Octopus because, as Diana mentioned in the introduction, that was the nickname that Guatemalans gave to the United Fruit Company in Guatemala, and that was kind of in the origin of the U.S. invasion. Okay, so I will show you the videos, and then I can answer questions after you watch it. Like I mentioned, it's a 4-channel video installation, so the installation is very immersive. So now you will watch the 4 channels together, so you will have to use your imagination. Okay, so here it
Chaulta. Oh. Ha? Achingwa. Oh. Atsuwa. Namalak. Kas. Ku bia. ما تسيج أطرقس كتره خلنا كنا إيش تقبه هيركو بيه يا
Jump ahead a little bit because it's a runway circuit.
وشخصة وخانتك ونشيك يا كتيو وتشيش أكمل تك ريلو لأورينكنا إرات شرقاي تشيبر كتشورتري بيتشي شرقاي تشاتا موس شرقاي تشيبر كنا نكوانتك إسكور باتشي يا شقني ملاخون كموكيكان ملاخون كموكيكا شكما تصير أمتات شكما تصير أبن
Okay. Any questions about Octopus? Yes, back there.
I love that last shot. Could you talk a little bit about how you work with your actors and the process and how you find that combination of documentary and fiction that you were talking about?
Sure. Well, in this case, I mean, when I thought about the idea, I literally went to the parking lot of the Home Depot, started asking around. Eventually, I found one guy that had been that was an ex-guerrilla, and then I told him about the idea and asked him to help me, gathering a group of ex-guerrillas and ex-military from Guatemala, and then he did. So I guess my approach is as straightforward and clear as it can be. And then, every case is different, of course. In this particular case, they were especially worried about immigration. That was their anxiety. So once they understood that was not what I was about, then they relaxed and they engaged, and generally they were very happy because, in LA, they are, some people call them Mexican, other people call them Hispanic, even though they're Mayans, their mother tongue is Quiche. So hardly anybody knows who they are or where they come from. So to them, it was immediately interesting to be part of something that kind of acknowledged their history and who they are. So they were very, very receptive and very actively participating. And then my process, once I explained to them what the idea was, we did a whole series of gatherings in which they explained to me, because I've never fought in a war, what the rhythms are and what war is like, and the movements. And then based on all these sessions that we did, in their suggestions, I just did, like an abstracted choreography of the movements and of the camera angles and everything for the shoot. Yes. Did I answer the question, or was there a different angle that you had in mind? No. Yes. Okay. Cool. There was another question there, and then here. Yeah.
A librarian, so I probably do need the microphone. I just want to know how people separated themselves into, there were ex-guerrillas, but also ex-military.
Yes.
And that seems like a really difficult, how could you stand on the corner with the same guy who was on the other side?
Yes.
And the other thing is, when you left the project, did you feel any compulsion to carry on some kind of social work with them and maybe help them find other outlets besides standing outside of the Home Depot?
Okay. Okay, those are two very, very different questions. I will start with the first one. Actually, some of them actually even fought for both sides. What that means is that most of these guys were literally kidnapped from their villages when they were very young, 13, 14, 15 years old, and kind of made to fight. We know now from a lot of released documents from the CIA that the U.S. even funded both sides. This was not their war in a way. So that makes what normally would be two different sides completely coexist to date without a conflict. And like I said, some even of them insisted in, because the military had the black shirts and the guerrilla was a white shirt, and that's how I had conceived it. But then in two instances, since they fought for both sides, they insisted and they changed their shirts, and some scenes they appear with a white and then the black. So there wasn't a conflict among them. I mean, they don't consider themselves to be enemies. And then that was the first part of the question. The other side of the question has to do with whether I had some urge to do some activist work with them. I think art and activism are different, and they're different languages, and they operate in a different way. So I'm making art, and through this piece, my intention was not to ameliorate their situation in a direct way. That was not the agenda. And of course, I could pay them really well because I had a good budget from the Hammer, but beyond that, that was not really my intention to. I mean, that would be a huge. I guess beyond my capacity, so that I don't know if that answers your question. We can maybe talk more about that later. Yes.
Could you say the setting is somewhat ironic, where you have people going about their daily affairs, barely noticing the mayhem going on?
Yes.
Could it speak to our concern of mayhem elsewhere in the world?
Yes, I mean, I think that speaks about the numbness of consumer culture, and I include myself there. I mean, I wanted to kind of talk about these kind of two parallel realities that kind of coexist, and how disconnected we are from a lot of the, I guess, underbelly or these kind of dark aspects of the system that we inhabit. So I didn't stage that in the sense that I wasn't directing the customers, like Home Depot customers or the cars. I did not have control of the setting, but I did anticipate that would happen because that is how we operate in cities, especially in big cities like LA. You know, we go about our business and we're kind of very self-absorbed, and so I anticipate that kind of that would happen, and to me it was kind of a metaphor about the kind of invisibility of the day laborers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just had a question about your the choice not to use subtitles. So I noticed in the first piece you had subtitles into English, and then this one you didn't. And I wondered if you could talk about that.
Yes. Well, actually, there are no subtitles into English or Spanish because they are speaking in their mother tongue. I mean, they're speaking in Quiché, and I don't even know what they're talking about. I asked them to speak in Quiché about their experiences in the war. And I did that because it was important to me to stress the fact that they're Native American. And I think, I mean, that can be a long conversation, but I think a lot of the genocide that took place in Guatemala has a lot to do with the fact that they're Native American. And most of the people killed were Native Americans living in very remote communities and that were not kind of westernized or colonized yet. So that's kind of like not central, but it's also relevant to the piece, and that's why I decided not to subtitle it, and that was the intention behind that. Sorry, there was a question in the front row that early question that I missed. Oh yes, second row. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a one-time thing because I did not get a permission from the Home Depot. Yes. And that is why it took me a really long time I took a long time I was very detailed about my storyboards and about my choreography and about the camera angles because I knew I could be kicked out any second, and I did not know what to expect with the car. I had no control of the location. So I shot everything in 6 hours, and in those 6 hours, I was kicked out 3 times. The third was the definitive one. The first one, the guards came maybe 15 minutes after I was shooting, and they told me that I could not shoot there. It was private property, and then I explained to them what the project was about, and then they were sympathetic to it, and then they told me, when our supervisor comes, you will need to go. We'll just pretend you're not here. And then maybe a few hours later, the supervisor came, and I did the same thing. I explained to him, and he was also sympathetic, and then he told me, when my supervisor comes, then you really have to go. So the supervisor came 6 hours later, and I had like 90% of the footage. And then I only had to go back one other time to do a lot of the pickup shots of the signs and more discreetly. And that last scene that you saw outside of the sheds, I was hiding my camera in a car. So I asked the same security guards, I told them, this will take me 20 minutes and you will never see me again. And it took a while, but I convinced them, and then they just let me do it. And I was super discreet about it. You couldn't see the cameras or anyone. Only these two guys lying down dead there. So anyway, that's the start. And I think there was one here and then there. Somewhere around here, was there a question? Oh.
Answered it. I was wondering if the bystanders could see the camera.
I see, yes.
It's LA, and they probably see filming going on all the time.
Yeah, cameras are very familiar. In some of the shots they could, because, for instance, those shots where the cars are moving, the cameras are also in those the cameras were very visible. But towards the end, as it was getting more and more difficult to be there, I had to be more and more discreet. And I also programmed the shots that were louder, or where you would see more of the cameras and the crew, to do earlier, and left the more discreet shots for later. Kind of prepared myself for the worst scenario possible. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you find out how the guerrilla movement came about? Did you get some knowledge from them?
I'm sorry, I missed part of the question. Could you mind repeating, please?
How did the guerrilla movement came about?
Oh, the guerrilla movement?
Yes.
Like I said earlier on, I had just read a book about the U.S. invasion to Guatemala and the civil war that happened afterwards. So the civil war, it was a guerrilla fighting against the military. So that's how that came about. And of course, I mean, I after living in LA for many years, it was a little frustrating to me, the fact that almost every time that immigration was addressed, it was never, the foreign policy was never in the picture. So in a way, I wanted to kind of bring this, or talk about immigration in the context of foreign policy and in the context of, global capitalism. Yes, okay. Yes.
So I have a question in terms of the installation itself. So if you go to the installation views,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to the top left one right there, now if you look at the one on the floor, you can see that the reflection is a completely different image from what you see on the wall. So I'm wondering, is that like bouncing off the wall right there? Is that something?
This image is brand new. It was sent to me by the Amparo Museum, where the piece is installed right now. And that's a very good point. And what I'm guessing that happened here is that the camera had some sort of delay, because what you see reflected on the floor, wow, are the signs. Oh, you know what I think it happened here? I think they retouched this image because it's very hard to get these shots because the video is moving and the room is dark. So what I'm guessing that happened here is that they photographed it, and the images, the projections were, how you call that, blurry because of the exposure, and then they, in post-production, changed the frames. I'm guessing that's the only explanation I can think of. I will bring that up to the museum. Why are you looking at so much detail? Thank you for bringing that up. I would never have noticed that. Okay, I'm dropping that one. There you go. Thank you for the remark. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm kind of curious what other reactions you guys got from people outside of, well, like people watching, because although we see some people kind of giving like weird looks, what other reactions were there to this like filming being done?
Yes.
Did anyone say something? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think, this was shot in real time, and what you are looking in the videos is really what happened. I mean, there was hardly any interaction. I guess these guys are usually in that parking lot, and most people of the customers are used to seeing them there. So in a way, there wasn't, it was hardly any reaction. As you could see, I mean, some people would just look and then just keep going. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, the only interaction that we got was from the security guards there. And that was about it. Yes. No, it was a lot more. It was 14 altogether. 7 on each side, suppose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Of the set. Yes. Well, I mean, I guess the photos look very fluid because of the buckets, but it's really a square room with one projection on each wall. So as you walk in, you're really surrounded by the 4 videos, and the videos are purposely projected at different heights and in different sizes. I'm kind of very much interested in the relationship of the body to video and to the medium. I want there to be, I mean, we all are used to watching video in this kind of very frontal situation of single channel where our body disappears. And I'm very much interested in thinking about video as a physical medium and in this spectator as an active participant, active and creative participant. So that's why the relationship of the video to the body and to the architecture is very important to me. So when you're inside of that room with the 4 projections, you're kind of forced to be turning around and you're aware of the architecture and the scale, and so your body in a way becomes part of the work. And that's a little hard to translate in with photographs, but it's kind of an immersive environment that kind of that surrounds you. And I guess, in the photos, I guess it looks messier than it is, but it's like literally 4 walls with 1 projection each, so it's. Okay, so can I jump to the next piece so that we can cover more ground? Okay, so I assume everyone has seen Oracle in the exhibition. Yes? Okay, well, if you haven't, you can go and watch it. It's in the museum. So I wonder if you have any questions about Oracle.
I have one.
Sure, thank you.
So when you went out on the border with these characters, I guess that's a good word for them, they were happy to have you. Were they acting when they were driving in circles and shooting machine guns and pistols?
Well,
or
they
do you
were.
think that was
Yes.
really them?
Yes. Well, I mean, these are their guns. They love to shoot them. They actually, from the very outset, that was one of their conditions, that they would do it if they could get to shoot their guns. They kind of like the idea of being they maybe think of themselves as some sort of cowboys and like this kind of idea of being shooting their guns for a video. So like in other works, I mean, I approach them and then get to meet them, do some research, have some field research in having interviews with them, and then from there develop the ideas for the scenes. And then I proposed to them this idea. So I came up with the idea of them driving in circles, and you know, and then they would also come up with ideas, and then we literally together kind of constructed this video. But I mean, from the outset, one of the things that they told me is that they have a message they want to bring to America, and they love media. I mean, they love attention, and they love cameras, and they like people interviewing them. So they were very, very receptive and even eager to participate in this. Maybe you mind maybe turning all the volume down so that I can play the video, and then we can talk over the video playing? Thank you. Okay. Any other question about Oracle? Yes.
So is this like a formal group of some sort? Are these like neighbors? How do these people know each other? And how did you sort of get into this group? Was it meeting people through people, or can you talk a little more about that?
Sure. Okay, yes, they are part of a group called the Arizona Border Defenders. So it's an actual formal group that existed. If you Google it, you know, they have a website and everything. So they, in 2014, I don't know if any of you remember, there were close to 60,000 unaccompanied children that came to the US from Central America. Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. Sorry, not Nicaragua, and Honduras. So the reaction, I mean, since the US has a law that was passed by Bush that minors that come into the US from countries other than Mexico and Canada can get to have a trial to determine if they can apply, if they can be considered refugees or not. So the US was faced with this huge problem of having so many kids coming at once. And what the Obama administration started doing was to place these kids in different centers so that they can await their trial. It was kind of a very complicated situation logistically. So in this town of Oracle, there was one of the centers where they were going to house some of these children, and that town happens to be the town where the Arizona border defenders leaders live. So they organized a protest in 2014, and that's how I learned about them. They organized a very big protest where, you know, people from all across the border went, like-minded people from across the border went, and they had this huge protest against allowing the children to come into the US. So that's kind of the context, and that's how I learned about this issue, because I was following it on the news. I had done Octopus previously, and it was an issue that interested me. And then I got an invitation from the Arizona State University Museum to do an exhibition, and they offered to produce a new work. So then I thought, you know, it was, I had already been following that issue, so I told them I wanted to work around that and go to Oracle. So I went. It was impossible to get in touch with them long distance. So I at the time, I didn't even know that they were part of the Arizona border defenders. I only knew that the big protest took place in that town. And long distance, I couldn't get a hold of them, so I literally went to Oracle and started asking around, and eventually found them and began the conversation with them that led to the piece. That's the story. Okay. Yes?
I don't know if you had a chance to go into the town. I'm not sure if you had a chance to go into the town and get to know some of the people, the other people, but I'm wondering if these people were considered fringe, sort of out there, politically a little one extreme maybe, or was this your impression of really where the town was, if
Yes,
you can.
yes, that's a very good question. It's a very, very divided town. And it's got like two sides that hardly speak to each other, that know about their existence. And actually, when the protest took place, there was also a counter protest that also took place, what was called Open Your Heart. So the town is very divided, ideologically speaking. And but they're not marginal. I mean, roughly half of the town is, I guess, ultra-nationalist, like they are, and they're very much against immigration. And the other half is, are Democrats that are sympathetic to immigrants, even though they don't take into consideration foreign policy when they think about immigration. To them, it's an issue of compassion, which I also think it's problematic in a very different way. So in a way, the town is, like, I guess, some sort of, it's like a microcosm of this country, in a way. It's this division that with Obama became very evident. You could see it in that town. And I did this before, sorry, I meant to say Trump, I'm sorry. This town, I made this piece even before Trump was a candidate. I said Obama instead of Trump, right? Sorry. Yes, okay. So, yes.
I had a question about, I know that in another iteration of Oracle, there's a chorus of the children singing, and I was wondering if you could comment on what that adds to the work or what it takes away by
For sure.
having it or not.
Yes, yeah, in its first iteration, it included, because a chorus with the kids, some of these unaccompanied kids from Guatemala, in which they sing a chorus of the Marines hymn, but changing the lyrics to narrate from their point of view the invasion to Guatemala. And my intention there was to try to think about immigration issues and about the rise of ultranationalism in the light of global capitalism, or in the light of foreign policy. I guess to bring this more geopolitical kind of dimension to the issue. Then, and I also titled the piece Oracle in reference to the actual town, and also in reference to the future coming of Trump. No, that's a joke. No, and also in reference to Oracle Corporation. Because Oracle Corporation is a corporation that's famous for having strong ties to the government, to the CIA. So it's about this kind of conflict of interest of, government agencies kind of working in the interest of corporate interest, which is connected to the, invasion to Guatemala and many others. So originally I resolved it with this chorus that was kind of edited together with these scenes. Then eventually I thought of a more elegant and subtle way to do that, and that was to include the logo of Oracle Corporation within the video as a title. So now the pieces exist separately. The chorus of the kids, it's on its own, and then the Oracle exists as without the chorus and with this new title. So I guess I kept on working on the piece. Yes.
Any projects underway?
Yes. Well, I'm about to begin I was invited to do a piece in Japan, in Tokyo. So I have no idea of what I will be doing. I mean, the starting point is I want to work around Japanese corporate culture. So I'm doing a research trip in late this month and early May. So that's like the new thing that I will begin working on. And I also have an exhibition soon in Los Angeles, April 28th. So I'm working towards that. But that's going to be already made works. Like no new works for that. Yes.
Joshua, did you want to show us the one other piece quickly, and then maybe since it's after 6, we can bring questions with us to the
Okay.
reception? Would that be?
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Well. Okay. So when I was here in 2014. I made a piece at Skowhegan, and that I ended up editing in 2015. So these are some installation views of that work, and I will give an introduction as quick as I can, and then show you the video, and then we can keep, if you have questions, do it later at the reception. So this piece, when I was at Skowhegan as a resident faculty, there was another colleague, another resident faculty artist. His name is Jeffrey Gibson, there as well. And Jeffrey is Native American, and he grew up part of his life in a reservation in Mississippi. So he was talking about his work, and a lot of his work addresses his identity, and he talked about New England and how in New England there are no remains of Native American culture. That it was very big genocide, and that pretty much everything was erased and nothing was left. So I was kind of started, of course, questioning why the town next door to the school has a Native American name, has a very big Native American statue, and the whole identity of the town is built around Native American identity. So I started doing some research, and then I found out that in the 1960s, the lumber industry collapsed. I mean, there were no more I guess forests to exploit. So there was a big economic crisis. That's what's the version of the director of the Chamber of Commerce. And because there was no more industry, the town decided to build this very big sculpture in order to attract tourism of a Native American. And they call it the tallest Indian in the world. So they changed their town's logo, and the whole identity of the town is around Native American culture. So at that point, I asked some of the members of the Chamber of Commerce, and also a committee that was in charge of the restoration of the sculpture, to do a TV program at their public access TV station, in which they would talk about the identity of the town, the Native American identity of the town. And I also asked them to perform a Native American trance ceremony. So I'll play the result of that, and this is an installation view in which I kind of simulated the set that we did for the shoot, and then in the center there's a video monitor with the video. Okay, so here it goes.
This is Katie Willett, inviting all of you to a wonderful program. We are going to talk about the Skowhegan Indian. Now, whether you like it or not, we're going to talk about it. That's our football team. As a matter of fact, all of our teams are called the Skowhegan Indians. And look at the studio. I'll bet you know that that's the topic for the day.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
This whole history of the Skowhegan Indian, as sculpted by Bernie Langley of Warren, Maine, and I have his picture here. But right now, don't miss the Skowhegan Indian that is being restored by Steve Dion. Skowhegan Indian. This sculpture is dedicated to the Maine Indians, the first people to use these lands in peaceful ways. You must hear all of that over and over again, simply because we have so much that is not peaceful in our country. I hope that this tradition lives on.
My name is Corey King. I'm the Executive Director of the Skowhegan Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are the owners of the Indian statue. It was originally commissioned for by the Skowhegan Hospitality Association, and that was given to the Chamber. And so we actually own the Great Skowhegan Indian statue. I do want to thank Joshua Okón from the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture, and he's the director for this project, and helping us tell this story. And I think it's an important story. Skowhegan commissioned for the statue in the late 60s, and that was a high time in Skowhegan. Things were prosperous. There were businesses, there were mills, they were running logs down the river, and we were tied back to our river and our community and the wood and the wood industry. And the last log floated down the river in the mid-70s. As things started to change, less money was available for projects and upkeep. And what happened is the Indian and the maintenance on the Indian fell by the wayside. People start making it a focus of what we have. It was still the logo of the town office, and it was still the mascot for the high school. And there were certain statues and artifacts, around town signifying it, but it seemed to slip further and further back into our consciousness as other things arose, until about 10 years ago, when some people said, we need to bring this back. We need to reinstill the power of our community and our sense of place. And so they started a fundraising effort, and that fundraising effort spans the last 10 years until within the last 18 months, the majority of the fundraising happened, and we have got to our $65,000 goal.
So I'll stop it there. It's about halfway through video. Sorry? Okay. I mean, it's a fiction that it's already taking place. So in that sense, I mean, I didn't invent this fiction, but of course, by putting a camera in front of it, kind of pushed it a notch further. So, there you can determine whether you think this is serious or not, but it's real. Well, there's a side of it that it's real. Yes. Yes. Okay, so if you have more questions, I'll be happy to answer them.